Well, in one of the previous videos you will have seen me take the Daytona 190 engine apart, which is on my bench. This is the area which the engine case broke before. Now it is only relatively thin, and not using the clutch on, going through the gearbox puts a lot of strain, especially when the gear dog's only kind of half engaged. So we're going to reinforce this area here with a little steel plate. I then took to it with some files before drilling two small holes, which I use as a pilot hole to then drill the cases. Once I had the holes in the cases, I then drilled and tapped it. I did actually use all three taps because I'm an utter professional. I countersunk the plate, a little bit of Loctite on the bolt and fixed it down. Right, here we have the gearbox with crank kickstart shaft. Got a new selector in there as well. Now unfortunately, third gear still isn't fully engaged. I'm not sure whether you'll be able to see in there, but these dogs here, it's only about half engaged. And with the weak side case, that's what it allows the flex. So hopefully our somewhat pikey repair will stop us having any problems. So we're going to put that onto there. Two halves are together, so I'll quickly just put them casing bolts in. Right, well, we're still with the engine. It's now the next evening. I did forget about vlog life, so I've already put some of it together. Oil pump, I've loosely put that on. Gear selector shaft in. This is all fairly straightforward. This was slightly in the way, so I've had to remove a little bit more material. But as you can see, it just slots on now. No problems. So we'll put that circlip on there. We'll put that sort of circlip on there, then we'll start. We'll slide the crank gears on, then we'll set the clutch basket in. We'll then tighten them two up, and then we'll be back. For anybody that doesn't know, by the way, the little tongued or the washer with the teeth on goes in next. This washer, as you can see, this is how it comes off. So you slide on, turn it round, then that holds it in place. Then you put the clutch hub in. I'm not sure what torque setting people use for these two nuts. I tend to use a couple of Ugga Duggers with the smaller gun. That'll do it. When you're tightening the 4 clutch hub retaining bolts, don't swing off them and make sure that you bring them down in turn nice and even, because you can snap the lug off the clutch hub. A little kind of trick I use is putting a screwdriver in between the clutch basket gear and the crank gear. Whilst I had the engine on its side, I also tightened up the oil pump bolts. Using 2 nuts, I removed the cylinder stud from the old crankcase and then fitted them to the new crankcase. When putting the cylinder onto the crankcases, it's important to make sure that you oil the cylinder. Also, turn the ring gaps so they're not directly on top of each other as good practice. The head gaskets, they're metal, so I'm hoping they're good for being reused at least once. There we go. Get the cylinder head, put that on. Well, the torque setting is 22 Newton meters. It's important when it clicks not to put any extra load on. Just feel for the click again. That's it. Just double check them. And that's the head torqued on. Now I've got these 2 long bolts to put down the side. I'm not sure what the torque is for them, but I'll check. I'll put them in and then we'll time it up. Right, so now it's, I'm in a bit of a mess, aren't I? But now it's time to put the chain on. If you're wondering how I got the chain guides in with the cylinder head on, I didn't. I had to take the head back off because this one sits in a location between the cylinder and the head. You can get this one in. You can kind of get it in place, but you can't get it into the correct position. So now we'll offer the chain up. So I've got the chain on and I've put the flywheel on, just so there's the little mark there on the casing. So I need to line up that indicate the T, top dead centre. Now, on 140 pit bike engines, I didn't really pay attention when I was taking this one apart. Usually the marks on your cam sprocket point straight forwards. Now, obviously the camshaft is still in a position where it can sort of go to top dead centre, and the holes line up for the bolts. Obviously you can actually move the cam around behind there. If I do that, see how it's moved, but it looks about correct. So I'll put it on, I'll put the bolt in, I'll just loosely turn it over, or gently turn it over, and see what happens. Here you can see the decompression shaft, and under low RPM or starting RPM there's a lump which the follower has to ride over. That lowers compression and makes the engine easier to start, but at high RPM it isn't a feature, and therefore you have normal compression. That's the engine all timed up, ready to go. We've got to put the stator plate in, put the rocker cover on, the gear support selector that goes there, and then this awful green gear lever. A little tip I have is offer the cover up, then I put all the bolts in, so I don't kind of keep record of what goes where, and then I just make sure that each one's got sort of 10mm ish sticking out, and then you know you're not going to get to the end and then be looking for the one that you can't find. So some of you might have realised that I haven't set the valve clearances yet. Now technically there's no need to change the valve clearance because, you know, the rocker is in exactly the same place in relation to the valve as it was before, but we'll do them anyway. However, there is a more obvious mistake. Well, I mean, for the experienced engine builders among you, there is a little bit of an obvious mistake I've made when building this, so see if you can think what it might be. So the valve clearance is between 0.05, 0.07 on the in, and then they don't really give a guide on the out, so I'm going to go on the bigger side, because that should, you know, be a little bit more reliable. So we'll go for 0.07 on the in and we'll go for 0.1 on the out. Now it's pretty straightforward, you literally just get it to top dead centre. It rocks slightly, but in reality the cam is, you know, it's still top dead centre, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. Then you need your valve tool, put it on there, you know the rest. That's the valve clearances set, so rocker cover, and that's it. Don't bother with a stator cover, because in order to get the engine in the bike you need to get the chain on, then get the sprocket on. So that's it, just one job left. That was easy, wasn't it? So, you might be wondering if it runs. Genuinely haven't tried this. The exhaust is stone cold. I turned the petrol on some while ago whilst I was filling it with oil. Pull the choke up. How many kicks do you reckon? Go and have a guess. Give it one or two I'll turn the ignition off and just give it one or two gentle kicks over. Right, here we go, first kick. I say first kick, is it first kick? Oh, nearly. Well, there we have it. Engine's rebuilt and working correctly. Well, appears to be working correctly. Clutch is a little bit grabby, but the plates have been sat there for a long while and I didn't soak them in oil, so I'm sure that'll stop being so grabby once the oil's got around it. Now I did ask earlier if anyone knew what it was that was missing, what I forgot to put in the engine, and you know, the experienced engine builders among you will know what it is. The power band. So I'm not sure how well it'll work without that, but we'll see. Thanks very much for watching. Like and subscribe, do all that stuff. Cheers, see you in the next one.